You're listening to the Yin and Yang Show, a marketing and sales conversation providing strategic and tactical advice about inbound sales and marketing. And now, here are your hosts, Lindsay Kelly and Brian Signorelli.
Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on the Yin and Yang Show again this week. I am so excited about this week because we have a special guest. Oh, we need applause. I need to have that queued up next. There we go. Yay! Special guest, first guest. That's what I needed. So I'm Lindsay Kelly. I am with Prospect Builder. I'm the marketing arm of our podcast here, joined as always by Brian Signorelli. How you doing, my friend?
Good morning, Lindsay. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. It's a beautiful sunny day in South Florida, but what's new?
That's wonderful.
How's the snow in Boston?
Oh, it's melting. It's melting. Well, actually, it's not melting right now. It is. It's still freezing cold, and it started melting, but it's just so cold that I think it's gonna hang around for quite a while, as usual. So it's consistent at least. You got the sunshine, got the freezing cold. There you go.
Yeah.
And this is why I live in North Carolina, people. I'm just saying.
There we go. And coming to us from
the difference.
Right, coming to us from North Carolina is our buddy George B. Thomas of the Sales Lion. What's up?
Yes. Yeah. Hey, everything is up. Like, life is good. Things are going great. I'm looking at two wonderful people on the screen, so couldn't be in a better place.
I'm so excited you're here, Georgie B. Georgie B. and I and probably Brian Sig, we all go back a ways. Brian, you've met George B. before. I mean, that's kind of a silly question.
I think we have. Yeah, I think we have met before, and I definitely very, very, very familiar with the Sales Lion. In fact, so much so that I always kind of, and I never told you this, George, I don't think, but I always kind of envied the name, the Sales Lion. I'm like, oh God, that's such a good name. Like, I love that name for a company, for a business, for what you and your team do. So you got a fanboy up here in Boston for sure.
Oh, well, thanks. Marcus is a pretty smart guy, so the whole story of where the name came from is pretty interesting as well. So.
Yep, and you should listen to the Hubcast because they actually tell that story, not an episode not too long ago, where Marcus has always wanted to use lion.
Yep,
so
it's crazy.
You'll have to go listen to the Hubcast. And the Hubcast is all about HubSpot, and Brian works at HubSpot, and so we're all HubSpot Landia, as George says all the time. I've referenced that before. It's HubSpot Landia.
That's it.
The inbound marketing capital of the world.
There you go.
And sales, marketing, inbound marketing and sales. So George, tell us a little bit about your role with the Sales Lion and what you do there with Mr. Marcus Sheridan.
Yeah, so when I first got hired, it was more like design development, but it didn't take too long. I got into the educational arm of what we do. We love to be educators. I am the HubSpot or main HubSpot teacher for all of our clients. We are a little bit of a different agency, meaning we really don't do any of the work for people, but we teach them how to get the work done. Marcus always talks about we like to teach people how to fish, and that's what I do. I go into the tool. We have 30-minute meetings every week, and we just dive deep in its tactics, its strategies. But above and beyond that, too, we go out, we do workshops, video workshops, HubSpot intensive workshops. And then now, amazingly, and I'm humbled by it, I am a speaker, which feels weird to say, but, I spoke at Inbound last year, which I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that because it's the whole educational realm. But this year I'll actually be at hopefully Inbound, but I know I'll be at Social Media Marketing World, Content Marketing World, and I'm even going over to Scotland to talk at Chris Marr's folks at the Content Marketing Academy. So, and I say that humbly, but everybody needs to know that the only reason that I'm able to do these things that I'm talking about now is because of education that was put in place beforehand. That's all because of HubSpot. So
that's awesome. Yep. And I have been to the WOW workshop, the workshop on workshops, which is where Marcus trains folks like me, agencies, how to go in and give a world-class inbound marketing workshop to an entire organization at the beginning of your engagement. And many of our clients have been through this, and it educates the entire company because without that, to be quite honest, you will fail. And I say that because it's happened. It has happened over and over again. And now what I'm realizing, Georgie B and my friend Brian Saig, I need to do that more than once, because I'm like 20 months in with a client right now, and the sales team has this like little secret army going, this isn't working. And I'm like, but look at and I'm like, I'm an ass. I haven't shown them the data. I haven't gone back there to talk to them and help reinforce the message. The two people who are supposed to be helping with this are new. I'm like, and they haven't been through this. So talk a little bit about that, because that's a big component for success with inbound sales and marketing in an organization.
Oh, absolutely. And it's funny that you bring that up, because probably about 6 months ago, we transitioned into where we do a pre-workshop, and then we do a workshop right about the 6 month to 9 month mark. And they're designed to be completely different in what we're trying to achieve in those workshops. But the problem is too, is that typically, I don't want to say definitively, because there's probably somebody out there that'll listen and go, oh, we don't have that problem. But most likely the problem is that you've got this marketing person or marketing team, and somebody above them said, hey, we've got to start being able to track these things. We've got to be able to start generating leads off of our website. We've got to do this marketing thing. And I heard about this thing called inbound marketing. And so, of course, they sign up for HubSpot. Here's a new tool. And they're like, okay. Now I've got to learn a new tool, and I have no clue what this guy's talking about, but let's go for this. And in that whole turn of events or change of events, marketing never thinks to themselves, hey, I should probably talk to sales about this, and I should probably see if we can do this together. They just do what they can do to make this actually work, because, well, they're worried about not having a job if this doesn't work. And so that conversation never happens. The other thing, too, that I think honestly is happening is that we're positioning HubSpot as a marketing tool. And, you know, you can agree with me or disagree with me, but I would say HubSpot is actually a sales tool. And if we actually sold it as a sales tool, the adoption from sales teams would be a lot easier than the road or the hurdles that we have to go through now. And so really, and what's nice is now there's education for the sales side, there's education for the marketing side, and what I would suggest and what we're doing with our clients is we don't really hit it like that. We don't say, hey, have your sales team go do this education and have your marketing team go do this education. We say, hey, for the first month, you're going to do the sales education. And for the second month, you're going to do the marketing education, and not in individual groups, but as a group. Because what we talk about is that our companies that we're coaching, you're a revenue team. You're not a marketing team and a sales team. You're a revenue team, and you work together. So with that, that's what I'll say about that.
So one thing I guess I'd add to that, George, is totally agree with you from the HubSpot perspective that HubSpot is, I mean, arguably more of a sales tool than it is a marketing tool. However, I would agree that, or I would say that it really comes down. I think that, like, as a sales rep, for example, I always found that one of the easiest paths inward to a company was actually through the sales organization. This is before we actually ever had sales tools. And so whenever I was talking with a head of sales or even a CEO, or anybody, even sales reps from the organization, when I showed them things like lead intelligence, it all just immediately clicked. Right? Of course, we've built upon that over the past 2 years. But I think that you're right, that it could be positioned either way. I think it just depends on, I think the messaging is probably one of the most critical components, because, you know, there is a marketing talk track, there is a sales talk track, there is a talk track to a CEO. And I think that kind of all those parties at a minimum need to be educated on what the tools can do, what the platform is capable of, how it's going to help them. And of course, I'm not going to get into this, but I'm going to throw a fully loaded word out there to say, you know, this is why it's so important to understand your buyer personas. And of course, why it's so important to work, you know, with a team like yours, George, or with a team like yours, Lindsay. You know, if any company is looking to implement any of this, and I can also give a little shameless plug about the workshop on workshops. I haven't personally attended it. However, I do talk to a lot of different agency partners at HubSpot, and there has been just hands down resounding positive feedback from everybody. And that is not just from agency partners, that's also from our internal services team, our sales team, our leadership team. It's a really, really awesome course. So if there's a chance that you're an agency owner, you're listening into this, you haven't gone through that workshop yet, would highly, highly, highly recommend at least considering it or learning a little bit more about it, because it can make a big difference in how your business runs.
Yeah.
I agree.
I agree with you. You know, here's the thing. It's funny when you mentioned lead intelligence. I agree with you. The easiest conversation is the sales conversation. The unfortunate part is for the last, for most people, the last 3.5, 4 years, that hasn't been the conversation. It's been, let's do blogging and let's do lead conversion. And, but when you actually have the conversation on lead intelligence, or you talk about how you can segment a list to know if people are informationally qualified or engagement qualified, and how that actually gets rid of your messy middle of not understanding after they're a lead and they become a customer, what the crap is happening in there. Then salespeople are like, oh yeah, this is awesome. And those are the conversations that need to be had of like, look, we're going to show you. And negative personas. Oh my gosh. The fact that nobody is talking to salespeople about negative personas and how you can save time and golf more because you can automate a system that will take care of them via email. I mean, come on, people. Come on.
I mean, that's such a great point. And I tell people all the time because I do the interviews for personas, so that when we build out the actual buyer persona fictitious character, it's based upon 3 to 5 people that are real customers of the folks that we work with. And they're like, why can't you just use the same one? Like, you're in the same industry. You only work with office technology people. It's got to be the same damn person over and over again. And I'm like, it kind of is, but it really isn't. Because when I do an office manager persona for somebody in the Midwest, and Brian got to hear my accent before. It's like, oh, well, honey, this was just such a wonderful conversation. And, I'm just going to pray for you and your family. And I'm just so happy that we were able to have this moment together. I enjoyed talking to you.
Lindsay, I think you've got a future in show business, I think.
That's amazing. Like,
That's
I'm
voiceover.
like, wow.
Well, y'all know I grew up in the theater, right? Like,
Well,
that's
I'm
how I
not
start.
wondering.
That's how I start every workshop that I do. I'm like, I have to apologize to all of you. I am a failed Broadway star, so I have taken my talents and transitioned them to the business world, and now you get to listen to me for the next hour.
You could say
that's awesome.
it failed, or theoretically, it could be just emerging.
I've thought about incorporating like my own specific like belty Broadway tunes in the beginning of everything I do, and changing the words to match the conference I'm speaking at, but I haven't done it yet. I serenaded Brian on the piano a couple weeks ago.
That's right. Yeah, there's a Piano Man, right?
Yeah, it was. That's what I played for Georgie too. I've been working on Unchained Melody.
Nice.
So
And we've
my
officially
husband
gone
right
off the
now-
hinges.
I know, my husband right now is like, I don't know how I married this woman. He was like Mr. Sports Jock. So anyway, I totally lost my train of thought there because we went off the rails. But
We did, but it was fun. So we
it
were talking
was.
about it needs to be a sales conversation, along with the marketing conversation that's already been happening. So
it was the buyer persona. I didn't finish that.
yeah, negative
It was-
personas.
Yeah, because I do positive personas most of the time, but when I talk to that office manager and she's so sweet and wonderful and she's going to pray for me, then I get over to the East Coast. I mean, for instance, I'm from Baltimore, and they're like, are we almost done? Okay, look, this is how I make the decision. It's not in my hands. But like, okay, how many more questions do you have? I got to get back to work. And legitimately, like, those are 2 very different people to create content for. Okay, I'm going to use a lot more language and information about, family and togetherness and wonderful, warm, fuzzy feelings when I'm trying to get my point across to the office manager in the Midwest. Whereas in the East Coast, it's bam, bam, bam. This is what I'm going to do for you. You want to get this off your plate? This is a pain in the butt, isn't it? And so I have to speak to different people differently. And when I tell them I want to talk to their customers, I say, I want you to picture your favorite customer who is profitable, easy to work with, and you wish you had 100 more just like them. I'm like, that's who I want to talk to because that's who I want to attract. I'm like, now think of the person that you absolutely can't stand that you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I've talked to this person again. But they're a customer, so I have to. I'm like, those are negative personas. I was like, that's somebody you don't want to attract. So don't let me talk to those people. So it makes a difference.
Absolutely. Yep.
So, and back to the sales conversation now, because Brian threw out the whole persona thing. So, and we just did personas 2 weeks ago.
I can't get us deeper in a side, in a sidebar here. I mean, I can't be responsible for that. However, I can kind of segue us back into what I'm fairly confident we agreed we're going to talk about today, right? Which is the power of education, right? So
the power of education.
There's your segue.
There you go.
What you will do with it is up to you.
You can't have the conversation about personas if you're not educated on what personas are, right? So there we go. Now we're back into education.
Wow, there we go. That's what I'm talking about.
Teamwork
nice
makes the dream work there.
Perfect.
So I mean, let's talk more about education, because honestly, George, I'm going to pick your brain a little bit about how I should be better educating my clients, and I'm going to give you a quick how I do it now, like 30-second overview. We and we have a variety of different ways that we work with customers, everything from like soup to nuts, because I have nobody internally marketing wise to work with. I'm working with the sales VP. I'm working with, another person in the company who can kind of be that one go-to person, all the way down to, and we're doing everything for them, and all the way down to, I consult with people because they have an internal team. And so we're just meeting every week and we're talking about different elements of what they can do and how things are working. And I feel, and I'm just now in this, I was driving this morning and I'm like, I feel like I'm failing. I do. I feel like I'm failing my customers. I feel like I'm not giving them enough. And I mean, we all work our tushies off, trying to keep this a clean show, to make sure that we're getting, as much traffic, leads, and sales as we possibly can for them. But in the meantime, when I got that email from my customer last week, both of us were blindsided. She's like, I had no idea sales felt this way. And I'm like, I didn't either. I really thought we were doing well because I have a handful of ambassadors internally in sales that I work with. So my fear is I don't want to lose the whole, it's like one bad apple can spoil the bunch. I want to bring them back around and help them understand and show them, this is how, I mean, it might not be raining leads from the sky for you yet, but you're only 20 months into this. What do you recommend to keep them engaged, to keep educating them? Because they have forgotten.
Yeah. So, and here's kind of what I'll say is nice for us is because, again, we're training people how to do it versus like, hey, we're going to do all this stuff for you. Right. And so in a typical agency, what I envision happens is that you do a workshop, you sign the retainer, you've got your agreements in place, and you go to work and you're like, hey, we're going to smash this for you. And what happens with that is there's no level of like, we need to keep you educated on the things that we're doing and why we're doing them. And so we look at it like, well, there's no reason for you to get email certification because we're doing the emails for you. There's no real reason for you to get the content marketing certification. We're doing the content marketing for you. And I would actually argue that that's wrong. And what we would do is with the team of people that we're working with, which is hopefully some sales, some marketing, is say, look, you hired us to do this, but the worst decisions are the decisions that are made out of ignorance. And so it's our job to make sure that you're coming along the same road as us. And so we've built out a roadmap. There's 5 certifications that we want your team to get together, and they're going to happen over a 9-month period. And you literally say, first you're going to do inbound, then you're going to do email. Why do we do email second? Because we want sales to realize they shouldn't be spamming the crap out of everybody on the planet. And then we're going to move into content marketing and then HubSpot and whatever you deem at your agency as the next important thing. But you give them an educational roadmap. So not only are you reporting on the success of what you're doing as an agency, now you can have conversations about what's happening on a strategic level because they're educated to what is actually going on versus waking up one morning and going, I don't know why we wrote those 50 blogs. Somebody said we were supposed to write 50 blogs. And I don't know why there's this purple button on the side of my website, other than my marketing agency told me that purple converts, and I don't even know what that means. Like, you see there's just a difference there. And so for us, it's really easy because we're like, here's the roadmap and here's what we're going to do. So for instance, I'll give you a glimpse into what my morning looked like this morning before the interview. New client, second training. Second training was about the inbound basics, where we talked about the inbound methodology, we talked about buyer personas, and we talked about the buyer's journey. And it just scratched the surface in 30 minutes of like here, I'm going to whet your appetite to what we're going to get into. And we even looked at some things in their portal around personas and positive and negative personas. But as soon as that was over, in the projects tool inside of HubSpot, I've assigned them, 2 of them, because it's a team of 2, to, in a 2-week period, watch the inbound certification videos, and in 2 weeks take the test to be inbound certified. Right? Now, what will happen is when we go in and we start to train about the email tool, I will task them to take the email certification. When we're done training them on HubSpot in our way, I will then say, hey, it's time for you to go get your HubSpot certification. So at the end of everything, they sit there and they have 5, 6, 8, totally up to them, because it's addictive. Once you get 2, 3, you want to get 5, 6. Then you become somebody really weird like me with orangitis, and you have 12 certifications, right? Which is like every certification possible. But that's what we do. We're going to talk about a thing, and there's a certification that comes along for the ride, or at least the videos. So as an agency, you might not care if they get the actual certification, but you should care if they're watching that content. And so a roadmap and accountability should go along with any retainer that you're doing with folks as well.
One bit that I'll I guess piggyback on, George, to your point there about getting people kind of bought into the understanding of like, what is this? Why is it valuable? So on and so forth. Kind of translating it from my perspective, having been a sales manager, for example, whenever I presented anything to my team, I usually led with a what's in it for you, right? So some people might be familiar with like WIIFM, right? Get them to tune into what's in it for me. And I think that's really important, because if you're not able to actually understand or explain the why behind, what is happening, then what you said is absolutely right. Why is this purple thing on the side of my website? Why is it purple, right? Why am I getting these email notifications about somebody coming back to the website viewing a specific page? Why did we write, like you said, those 50 blog posts? Oh, the marketing team said to do it. We have no idea why that actually matters. So I think the more that, as a part of education and training, you relate it back. I mean, certainly have the mechanisms, in your case, you have orangitis, which, I guess I'm a fan of. I kind of have that myself a little bit, maybe not to your extent. But either way, I think that explaining just that value behind, what it is, and then giving people a way to digest or understand, the important components of it is super valuable. I think it's you're absolutely right that it's such a missing step that I see happen over and over again.
Yeah, let's talk. Sorry, Lindsay. Let's talk about orangitis for a second, and a mind shift that I think everybody needs to understand. Because if you're sitting here listening to this and you hire an agency, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you need help. I get it, but here's the thing: you have to understand that you have to come equipped to be successful. You have to help them be successful, right? The agency, like, there has to be a good relationship. And it would be like you're on the football team, and the quarterback knows how to throw and he knows how to do the lateral, but the receiver never knew that they were supposed to catch the ball. This is the relationship that is literally happening between agencies and clients, is that there's quarterbacks out there and nobody understands what they're supposed to do when it comes time for game time, right? And so if I'm sitting at a company and I'm like I got an agency to do that, I'm good to go. Yeah. I would beg you to rethink that and say, hey, I've got this agency that is allotting me the time to actually educate myself to everything that we're doing as a company. And I'm going to get orangitis and I'm going to become educated on what we're actually doing here. So, I can be a team player, because that's what every agency begs the Lord above to, like, please just give me a client that is going to not get in the way, not get in their own way, and help them be successful.
Yep.
I do have one of those. I love her. She was inbound certified before they ever signed the contract. She's going through all the different certifications. She's made it very clear inside of the organization, you all have to get certified in this. Their entire sales team is inbound sales certified. And I've talked about them before. But she had a conversation with me 3 weeks ago. Okay, so what are the next certifications I should take? What do you think? Which one should I do here? Which one? She's amazing. And I have to say, I don't have that a lot because typically inside of the folks that I work with, and I have been a marketing manager inside of a copier dealership, I know how it works. Everybody is busy. There's always something else that needs to happen, and I get that. But at the same time, I'm doing a disservice by not pushing that more and more. Now, I brought some of my clients who are, some of the savvier ones to you, George. We flew to you. We brought 3 awesome clients. And we spent a day and a half with George B. Thomas, on the HubSpot Intensive Training Workshop. So they could better understand what it is that we're doing as an agency for them. But here's the problem. I wish I could have had those 3 individuals. I wish I would have had their entire companies with us.
Yeah.
Because again, they're people inside of the company, and if they don't have top-down buy-in, they're right next to me pushing that boulder up a hill.
Yeah, and this is the largest problem that we've seen across the board, which keeps Marcus very busy, is this idea of buy-in. I mean, this guy is probably out 2, if not 3 times a week at different locations, California, Texas, wherever, doing content buy-in workshops because you're totally right. If it's not from the CEO/owner down to the janitor realizing this is what we're doing and we're all bought in, we all want this to work, then it's going to be so difficult to achieve the success that everybody is actually trying to achieve. And here's the thing that I love about HubSpot Intensive Trainings is that at least, especially when it's like an agency and your clients in that scenario, is at least I'm able to give you a little light at the end of the tunnel. You've at least got a partner in crime after that's over, right? What I like about the way that Marcus does the or the content buy-in workshops, or how I typically go out and do a HubSpot intensive training when it's one company, is that is exactly what happens. You have the CEO sitting there, you have the sales manager there, you have the marketing manager there, and we're going through all of the nitty-gritty pieces of everything from website UI to mapping your content to the buyer's journey, to understanding the messy middle, to lead nurturing. And at the end of the day, or day and a half or 2 days, you walk away and you look at their face and you know they've had that aha moment. And things are going to be different from that point on in their usage of HubSpot.
Absolutely. It's true. So, yeah, that was one of the biggest things I wanted to talk about today was that. And, you know, we were extremely grateful to George to come out and talk with us and, you know, had a great day and a half bonding experience with those customers. And so now I wanted to make sure we got the message out, because in our industry, in the office technology industry, this is very new. And we keep seeing a lot of, I mean, we've been in this industry now for a little over 2 years, I mean, from an agency perspective, and we're starting to see all these other things popping up from other folks, talking about inbound marketing, and some of them know what they're doing, and some of them are just putting the name on the website because people are asking, what is HubSpot and what is inbound marketing? And so I wanted to say, if you're curious about what inbound marketing is, and if you're curious about what inbound sales are, and if you're curious about how your sales team needs to be so tightly ingrained with your marketing department, go through HubSpot's free inbound marketing certification to at least get the foundation, to at least understand what this is. Please don't just go buy HubSpot. Sorry, Brian. Because
no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I actually couldn't. Speaking of anti-personas, I mean, some of the people, and this is a little bit inside baseball, to just, I mean, in some ways tell you how important, and then, all right, I'm just going to get to the point, because I'm losing myself here. 6 years ago, I was a HubSpot customer. This is before I worked at HubSpot, obviously. So the customer came, you get the point. But I was a HubSpot customer, okay? And back then, our onboarding and training was optional. So we'd give customers the choice as to whether or not they wanted to be onboarded, right? And pay I think it was like $1,000 or $2,000, something like that. Then, as anybody who's a HubSpot customer knows now, training is mandatory. It's a mandatory investment, unless you're working with an agency partner, in which case it's waived. And the assumption there is that the agency knows what they're doing. They're going to train you and retain you and help you and get you certified and everything like that. And to George's point and Lindsay's point, even if you do have an agency working with you, I couldn't agree more with George that there is still a ton of value in getting those certifications, the trainings done. So anyway, the point is that HubSpot values education and training so much that it has made it a mandatory part of any customer coming on board. Now, the good news is you don't have to pay a dime to actually get some of that baseline knowledge and those fundamentals, the inbound marketing methodology certification, the CRM software certification, the inbound sales methodology certification. Those are, I'd say, even if you throw out the CRM certification, just the inbound sales methodology, the inbound marketing methodology, those two certifications at a minimum, those are free. They've always been free. As far as I know, they will always be free. If they ever change that, I probably will leave HubSpot, quite frankly.
Hashtag make it free.
I do. I really think that those things should be free. They should be free.
I think the analytics tool should be free too. Can I throw that out there?
Well, if you want to throw a whole list of things that should be free, just throw them my way. I'll get them on the ideas.hubspot.com, and we'll just see who posts it up and all that stuff.
That was totally because I'm on this show right now.
That was totally so. For those of you, and I'm sorry to cut you off, Marcus Sheridan does a hashtag make it free. And said if they made the sales or the HubSpot analytics $200 a month reporting tool free, he would strip down to his tighty whities and run across the stage at Inbound. And I was like, oh, please make it free, because that would be hilarious. But no, to be honest, that would be a great thing to make free. But I agree with you, Brian. If they ever start charging for the baseline certifications, I will be upset too, because
see, I don't ever see that happening, because from somebody who's not in HubSpot, meaning I don't work for HubSpot, and somebody who has had other companies come that use Marketo and Pardot and Eloqua, and as somebody who has tried to enter the ecosystem and realized that it is super difficult to educate yourself on how to use these platforms, and then knowing that HubSpot is here it is. This is how you use it. This is why you should use it. That is literally a game changer to the decision of why us as an agency and many other agencies don't want to work with these other marketing and sales automation tools, because it's just an uphill battle from the get-go on the education side of it. So the other thing I want to say this, because your listeners, what I want them to realize is, no matter if it's what we're talking about right now, which is HubSpot in inbound education, or just education in general, if you want to go places, if you want to do something special, then you have to spend time educating yourself on that thing. For me, it did happen to be inbound marketing, content marketing, HubSpot. But look, all of us have goals. All of us have dreams. And education is truly the way that will get us there. In 2012, I went to my first inbound conference. I had zero clue what inbound was. I had zero clue what HubSpot was. But I knew at that moment I wanted to do something in this space. And the only roadmap that was even visible to me at that point was that HubSpot had these certifications that were free. Free, people. Free education. And from 2012 until today, I can now say, I have 12 certifications. I'm one of about 40 people on the planet that is a HubSpot accredited trainer because of getting all of those certifications. And so at the end of the day, what does that mean? Well, it means you got a bunch of things. No. What it means is that I have the flexibility to do those things that I want to do in life. I have the ability to spend more time with my family. I have the ability to be in places that I wouldn't have been in before. And so you're sitting here listening to this, and maybe it's education on certain copiers, or maybe it is education on inbound, or maybe it is education on how to be better at sales. Get the education and be the person that you can truly be.
Preach.
Preach, George. I love
Amen.
it. I think one other point that you kind of got me thinking about, George, as you were talking about that, is just the importance of, not taking a one and done approach. I'm not necessarily saying that everybody should get all 12 certifications. I think it's awesome that you did, and I think that everybody should. Not going to say it's mandatory or something you should go out and do right now, nor could you go out and do it right
Because
now.
I don't have all 12.
Wouldn't even make sense. Exactly, wouldn't even make sense for you, right? But that aside, there's a ton of different statistics on this and kind of like human ability to absorb education and training. I think what's really awesome about you, George, is that you've made this kind of a lifelong commitment, right? Or at least you made it for the last 5 years, and I'm more than certain you're going to keep going. Because I'm sure people have heard the stats of 85% of training is lost after 90 days. And then only 50% is retained after, or 50% is retained after some 5 weeks. There's a bunch of different kind of scary stats out there. But the point is that it's not just enough to go through a training once. It's important to then have the application, to have the review, to then have an agency partner like Lindsay or a coach like George to be working with you over time to actually reinforce that education and actually kind of draw that out and draw the application of what you learned into your business to help you do those things like George talked about, to ultimately get to those goals of having more time, having more freedom, having more flexibility. Because, unless I don't even know the right word for it, but unless you're kind of crazy, what else are we all working toward if not something along those lines?
Absolutely.
No, that's great. Great points all around. And, if you guys have questions for George B. Thomas, because he is the answer man, he's got a fantastic YouTube channel with all kinds of HubSpot how-tos, tips, tricks, really, really great stuff. And it's #free.
Absolutely.
Yes. And
I think we're up to like 375 or something HubSpot CRM and COS tutorials on that channel.
that's amazing. And it's great because they're very digestible. It's a couple minutes. It's
Yep.
not like you're listening to George for 15 minutes. He goes 2, 3, 4 minutes, shows you what you need to get. So it's like, get in, get out. So is there an easy URL for that YouTube channel?
No, if you go to YouTube and just search the Sales Lion or the Sales Lion Learning Channel, you'll find it. Or actually, HubSpot CRM tutorials, HubSpot tutorials, HubSpot COS tutorials, they come up immediately.
I love it. I love that you own that space for it.
I was going to say,
that's the power. It's the power of creating really great content and creating tons of it, right? You guys just own that. I think it's awesome that you've gone to that extent.
Right, because remember, people, you don't always have to write 50 blogs that you just kind of thrown against the wall. You can create any kind of content you want. You can create videos, you can create slide shares, you can create podcasts like we do.
Yay! Yay for podcasts.
Yay for podcasts /show, because we post this on our yinandyang.fm as well. But Georgie B, what is your Twitter handle?
Yeah, people can reach out to me. Actually, 2 places I'll give you. At George B. Thomas on the Twitter sphere or Mr. George B. Thomas on Facebook.
Nice. Didn't know about that second one. I'll be finding that later today. And you can always find my buddy Brian at Inbound Seller on the Twitter sphere, as you say. I am at LV Kelly. And George, any last words of wisdom before we close out the show?
Yeah, just here's the thing that I like to share on every podcast that I talk through is that if you truly want to be successful, you can pretty much drill down to 3 words that you should be focusing on, at least I'll say in a digital world, but really this is just world in general. And it's 3 words that I actually try to live by each and every day. And that is that your goal should be to be human, to be happy, and to be helpful. And if you wake up in the morning and those are the 3 things that you're trying to do, then you will have a very successful day.
And on that note, guys, thanks again for listening. And until next time, keep the conversation going.
Yeah, keep talking.
You've been listening to the Yin and Yang Show, a marketing and sales conversation with Lindsay Kelly and Brian Signorelli. Join us online at yinandyang.fm. That's www.yinandyang.fm.